say something about yesterday. Really, it was a wonderful day, and the ladies of this church blessed our home immensely yesterday. So thank you all for coming. I think it was a good start to something that's going to get stronger and stronger. And I'll talk a little bit about Proverbs 31, but just in a bit. I want to start off with something else. Who remembers what Don spoke about last week?
I do.
No, besides Don. And I'm sure even you won't remember so nicely. Do you remember anybody? I'll tell you. Last week, Don was talking to us about society and the principalities that govern the world and how we've been sort of tricked, lied to was the word he used, right? So I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about how do we tie Proverbs 31 into all of these things. But last week, the most profound thing happened, as it always does when I come to church. We realized last week that society has warped who we as women believe ourselves to be. It's changed what we think we're supposed to be about. More importantly, or to a certain extent, Donnie spoke about how it's changed what we think we need to be as parents. And in particular, because today's Mother's Day, society has also changed what we think mothers are supposed to be. He spoke about parents being friends, and that's not what it is. Society has warped what men believe women are about. And you have to ask yourself why. And it's because, as Don said last week, and I think we all know, it's because it takes us further away from the Word. It takes us further and further away from the purpose that we are supposed to be living in. We have all these ideas on social media and TV and all of these things. And I thought, okay, well, what does it mean then to really start living according to the Word? Because I was listening to Don, I listen intently every week, Don, even if I don't take notes. Yes, and then I watch the recording. Yeah, that's what happened. So I was thinking about, how do we do this? How do we shift the way we work, and what does it mean? And do I really want to do this thing? And, then I looked up, and I saw this. I wonder if they can put the picture up for me. So I looked up last week, as Donnie was talking, and okay, thanks, Lee. And I was thinking, well, now how do we do this? How do we get this right, as this church, as women in this church, as mothers in this church? How do we change what happens in society? And I looked up. Are we getting it? Sorry, we're having technical difficulties. We didn't practice. And that's what I saw. Liam was sitting here, and the back of his T-shirt said, "Menace to society." And in truth, that's what we have to be. We have to stop trying to build the society that we're in. We have to stop trying to align ourselves to what's going on. We actually have to be a menace to society. We have to change what's happening. And it starts in the home. It starts with us, in our homes, in our church, in the way we work with each other as sisters, the way we talk to each other as families. All of those things need to change. Then Proverbs 31 came up. And I'm just telling my technical team what needs to. I'm going to need some scripture next. Then this Proverbs 31, it's really something that speaks to me in so many ways. And yesterday what we did as women was we looked at Proverbs 31 in a lot of detail, and we spoke about it. And there was quite a lot of very interesting conversation that was happening around it. So what happened was, I read it in the beginning of the session, and I asked everybody to kind of talk about it, and we'd already had discussions about sisterhood and womanhood and that kind of thing. I encourage everyone in this church to go and read Proverbs 31. And then I started thinking, okay, so now, because yesterday I realized, I'm doing communion today. So I thought, okay, well, it has to be about Proverbs 31. I wonder if we can hand out the elements while I talk. And I'll talk a little bit more about the session while we do that so that we don't disturb it. So we spoke about Proverbs 31, and what was interesting was I listened to some of the conversations happening at the tables, and there were such different things coming up, and it was so interesting. But one of the things that I heard over and over, and it was actually the first comment that was made at our table, was when you read Proverbs 31, you realize how awesome women are supposed to be, and how awesome we are, what we're supposed to do, that we're not limited to wife or mother or girlfriend or sister or friend, that it's actually so much more than that. And so we really need to start living in that purpose as women. Thanks, Ryan. Okay, so then I started thinking about what do I say about communion and how can I relate the two things together. So I read Proverbs 31 again. And if you can, pull up Proverbs 31, verse 27. And then I found this. It says, she watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. So right there, and I mean it happens throughout the Bible, wherever you look, you'll find it. There's messages on communion, there's messages on the crucifixion. And so it says this very clearly, and does not eat the bread of idleness. If we stop eating the bread of idleness, we will be a menace to society. Because this is the bread that we have. This is the bread we should eat. There's no other way. They're still there's like 6 people handing out elements, but it's still not done. It's because the kids are not doing it. Why didn't you guys do it? Why are you leaving it to the men? Yeah. Hey. Someone's going to fall in the pool just now. Sorry, Don. I don't think I have bread. No, it's okay there. Thanks. Oh. No, they. No, I'm sorted there. See, now 3 of them come. Please, can we let the kids do that next time? They're much better. Okay. So verse 27 says, she watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. I'm going to say now that if we take a moment and eat the bread that we were born to eat, to live in the purpose that we were born to live in. Partake of the bread. Then I'm going to read a few verses. If you go for me to verse 10 and 11, please start with 10. Okay. The section we focused on yesterday, just so you know, started at verse 10. It says, who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. 11. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. So it talks about what a wife is in a household and how the husband of the household can actually trust in that. And it benefits everyone. Then go to verse 21, please. It says, she is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. So it talks about having a mother having the ability to protect her family from the snow, because she knows that all of her household is clothed in scarlet. And if you look at the first verse, and if you look at this verse, her worth is far above rubies, and she clothes her house in scarlet. And both of those things are the things of royalty, and both of those things are red. So there again you see that because our worth is far above rubies, he shed blood for us, because our worth is even bigger than that. We clothe our families in scarlet. We clothe our families in the blood of Christ. And that's why we don't fear snow. So if we stop looking at society for guidance, if we stop looking at what it is that everybody else says we're supposed to be, and just go to the Word, it's all there. There's no debate about it. So as you consider clothing your families in scarlet, if you consider your worth being above rubies, I'm going to ask you to drink the blood of Christ. You know, we spoke about Proverbs 31 yesterday, and it was very much about the women, but I encourage the men also to go and read it. Because you too need to understand what it is that you're actually sitting with in your household. And understand that her worth is above rubies. She is the one in the household that clothes your household in scarlet. And the role of a mother, and the role of a wife, and the role of a woman in a household, a sister, we learned yesterday, the role of sisters in our lives is more important than anything that we've thought so far. We've put it in a little box for what it is. So through this week, I ask you to remember that being in communion with God means that you remember what your worth is. And you remember, more importantly, the higher purpose that you are called to live in. And be a menace to society every day if you can. Amen.